Okay, I think I got a little carried away with what I wanted to do with my design work, but we take it as a challenge. Hopefully not an intimidation. I want you to, do the best you can. Uh, this is an introductory course, but from where we left off, we had a 20 foot by 20 foot arrangement, and the first thing I did was change the amount of roof, or excuse me, ceiling tiles that we had. And I'll show you how I did that in the code. And then we'll come back and we'll look at the screen again. So I'm going to go out to Dynamo and I'll show you a few changes that I made. At this code block, which sets up our array, and if I turn that on right now, I'll just preview it right away. All right, so now the code block used to end here, kind of like where that where our NURBS curve ended. And I just made a new code block just by copying the original one down and pasting it and changing this value to 40. I also brought the ceiling down because the aspect ratio of a building that was 20 foot wide with a 20-foot high ceiling looked a little bit awkward to me. So I changed the ceiling height to 15 feet. All right, so that's about the major amounts of coding changes that I did here. When I brought the ceiling height down to 15 feet, though, my tiles were now all misaligned with each other, and I was confused a little bit. So I would point out to you that if you do the same thing, this subtraction here is no longer from 20, but now it's from 15 or 14.9 to leave a little bit of extra tile showing. So that's the only changes that were made to the code. Went in the Y direction. I think it was the Y direction, actually the X direction. And that kind of set up for how I visualize the project in Revit. So now I'll just move over to Revit. So here we are in Revit, and I made those points highlighted. So let me fix that right away and unpreview these. It's a little bit distracting. All right, and the NURBS line shows up, I think after I run it, it shows up on the screen, and I kind of desired to have it there. I don't know if we need to make a change here or not to make that happen. I'll just change this number and then I'll change it back again. I didn't think it would take that long to run. Uh-oh, crash. There it goes. Now this is kind of interesting too because this is what happens when you change. This is now the 12-foot ceiling level, and you can see some of the values just got really misaligned with each other because we're subtracting a funny number. So I'll go back and change that, but here's that NURB lines reappeared. So I'll go back to Dynamo again and just change this back to 15. And I've got it on automatic run, so it's going to recreate that. And we'll take a look at it as soon as it's completed here. Oh, it didn't update on the screen. Oh, there it goes. Great. Okay, so we can see our NURBS line down here, and we see it here. And you can see what kind of effect it had on the ceiling, because this is the last point of attracting to this. So you can see as things pull way off away from the NURBS curve, these get very low. And I thought that was a very interesting look, so I kept it. But you could also extend the NURBS down to do all kinds of shifts within this geometry. But I thought the effect was nice or interesting. I put glass around the outside of it as I'd shown in the other one, and I was really unhappy with how the glass was interfering with our visualization of that. So I just pulled these back, almost as if we had retractable walls, so you could actually get a feeling of this ceiling system. I put a roof on, which was a generic roof, and the only thing I did to it was make it thinner. I made it 6 inches thick, gave it, I think, a 4-foot overhang, and colored it white instead of gray. And this back wall is just cinder block. So that's one view that I included. And if we were to look actually at that view, it's 3D view here, that's all that view is. So I made sure I extended this out so it would become the whole display field for the whole drawing. So when I brought it onto the sheet, it filled up the whole sheet. I made a piece of type that would white text, which I called title type. And I made that a 1/2 inch high. I got to a very close white but not perfectly white color for it. I might tone that down a little bit right now just for fun. And I made sure the background was transparent, and we've done that before. And I brought in the Dynamo definition. And also I created, for like this title block, I did a no title viewport, which was just taking a regular viewport, duplicating it, and then turning off the title for it. Now, the Dynamo definition was very difficult to bring in, and I'll show you how you actually export a Dynamo definition. It's very handy to be able to do that, but it can be a little problematic with importing it. So once we have the definition set up here, you can go to File, and you can go export the workspace as an image, and it will export it as a PNG file, which means it'll have transparency behind it, which is really quite nice, because then you can lay it over other things. The problem with that is that if I was to try and place that image, let me close off. If I was to say, try to, I think it's insert an image, and I grab that full definition again, and I try to bring it onto the sheet, it ends up behind the sheet. And I figured a hack to fix that problem. And you can try it if you want. The way to get that to appear on the front side of the sheet over that is an overlay, is I place this image on a level. And in this case, I chose the site level. So this looks really confusing because you don't see any of the other site information. But if I was to get rid of the view crop and apply that, now this is the site plan. The elevation lines and things are hidden, and I can reveal them. So you can see all the site elements. So I just imported the image, placed it on here, and cropped it way down. That would allow me to drag the site on, and that image would then overlay. I know that's quite a hack to do that, but it did allow me to do that layout issue. And I'm just going to reset this now, so it's back to its normal settings. So then I was able to take the site and then drag that onto the sheet as a definition here, and that came out nicely. I also wanted to get a feeling for this thing as kind of a technical section, what it kind of looked like as far as what was happening with the curvature. That was kind of difficult too because sections are rendered differently. So in this case, what I did is I made a 3D view out of it, and I called that 3D view a section. But it's not really a section, it's really a 3D view. If I was to rotate this to its side and show everything that's going on here, to turn on I have a section box around it that pulled back until I got the tile, one of the full tiles, to reveal itself, so the wood stayed on it. If I go in the middle of it, it'll just turn gray. So this is actually working kind of as a section, but it's really a 3D view. And then I made sure I hid the levels in the section box and everything. So that gave me an attractive looking front elevation view. And I turned off the background so that it would have transparency when I overlaid it onto the sheet. So, and I wonder why that jumped. That's a curiosity. So we'll just delete this, and then I'll just drag it back onto the sheet again. Okay, so that pretty well sums up how the sheet was done. And I exported it at 4,000 pixels, and the effect of these lines looking all thick in this image really goes away in a high resolution output. So now the lines, oops, if I was to zoom in here a little bit, all of this holds pretty clear and crisp. So you can actually even read this definition on the sheet. So this is probably, this is asking a lot of you to deliver on this, but if you do, I'd be really excited to see this level of accomplishment. I look forward to really anything that you can get accomplished with this. This is our last project, and it's really a chance to experiment and work through a relatively complex concept. So good luck, and if you have any questions, always please ask.